The hymnal breathed, and as its leather binding split like parting lips, tech adept Vex Omega witnessed the impossible made manifest. Where centuries of sacred parchment should have rested, rows of human teeth gleamed in perfect dental formation, each incisor and molar carved with microscopic high Gothic scripture that pulsed with faint bioluminescence. His augmetic hand trembled as diagnostic subroutines screamed contradictions at his logic engines. The teeth bore the molecular signature of ancient parchment while exhibiting active cellular metabolism. The subsonic chant intensified, no longer filtering through his audio receptors, but resonating directly within his cranial cavity. Individual voices emerged from the harmony, dozens speaking in perfect unison. The flesh remembers the song. Each word corresponded to a flicker of light across the carved enamel, anatomical descriptions and surgical instructions, intertwining with fragments of the canticle of flesh. His sealed rebreather continued delivering that impossible organic scent, myrrh and warmed blood, sacred oils and something deeper, more primal. Vex Omega extended his Auspex scanner toward the breathing manuscript. The device's machine spirit chittered in binary distress, returning readings that violated every known parameter. The teeth were not merely carved but grown, developing in perfect formation while containing complete liturgical verses. His chronometer displayed wild fluctuations with each breath cycle, microseconds of acceleration followed by equivalent deceleration, as if time itself bent around the hymnal's rhythm. The vault's atmospheric processors hummed with mechanical precision, yet environmental readings detected trace organic compounds matching no imperial database. Carbon chains resembling protein structures, complex molecules suggesting cellular activity, all suspended in supposedly sterile air. His logical subroutines ran futile diagnostic cycles, each iteration returning the same impossible conclusion. The sacred texts were alive. Movement registered from throughout the vault. 17 codices, each sealed in vacuum-sealed cases for preservation, all exhibiting the same breathing pattern in perfect synchronization. The harmony created subsonic resonance through the ship's hull, registering on seismic detectors as the hammer of righteousness itself seemed to breathe with the ancient texts. Adamantium bones flexed in microscopic rhythms that should have been structurally impossible. His Vox link detected interference on all frequencies, not chaotic warp static, but organized patterns matching the hymnal's breathing rhythm. Throughout the vessel, machine spirits sang along with the texts. Their binary cant transformed into organic vocalization. Every cogitator core, servo skull, and automated system harmonized with the impossible chant. The primary hymnal's teeth parted slightly, revealing glimpses beyond. Not hollow book interior, but tunnels of pink, wet tissue pulsing with arterial rhythm. The bioluminescent scripture shifted and flowed like living text, rearranging into new configurations while maintaining essential meaning. The flesh remembers the song became the song awakens the flesh, each permutation accompanied by soft clicking as teeth adjusted positions within the binding. Bridge to vault crackled his vox bead, strain threading through regulation calm. Geller harmonics now Delta 012. Minor alarms in tertiary shrines on decks 5, 11, 19. Recommend immediate containment assessment. Translation in 28 minutes. Vex Omega's faith logic circuits sparked with theological violation. This was not malfunction or Xenos corruption, but transformation, a reordering of reality that defied every tenet of the Omnissiah's sacred mechanics. The hymnal, once static repository of faith, had become a living, singing organ. Cold dread seeped into his bionics, not of physical danger, but profound doctrinal crisis. His manipulator servo extended toward the pulsating manuscript. The teeth clenched and unclenched in anticipation, a silent, ravenous maw radiating impossible warmth through his armored digits. Data slates struggled to process incoming sensory information, displaying corrupted files and repeating error codes. The very act of observation seemed to infect his systems, forcing confrontation with reality where the sacred had become profane, yet sang with devotion's voice. The Geller field's harmonics shifted again, micro-fluctuations organizing into patterns matching human prayer rhythm, as if the ship's warped defenses learned to worship alongside breathing hymnals. The organic scent intensified, carrying overwhelming sensations of peace and belonging that his emotional subroutines struggled to categorize. His augmetic fingers moved toward the opening of their own accord, drawn to the warm, inviting passage that logic insisted could not exist within bound manuscript confines. The teeth clicked softly in welcome, and from impossible depths came the sound of a vast heart beating in perfect time with 17 sacred texts that had somehow remembered how to breathe. Vex Omega initiated emergency protocols. This demanded immediate high-priority response, not mere maintenance, but theological emergency requiring specialized intervention. As his hand hovered before the breathing book's mouth, he began composing priority transmissions to assemble an investigation team, knowing with unsettling certainty that this was no isolated incident. Within 17 minutes of Vex Omega's priority transmission, the investigation team assembled outside the reliquary vault's sealed blast doors. Interrogator Lysander Caney arrived first, his pale features bearing the focused intensity of one trained to recognize corruption in its subtlest forms, Rosarius dim against his chest. Armsman Sergeant Voss followed in navy carapace, hellgun charge pack checked with methodical precision, weathered face displaying controlled tension. Chirurgeon Hadria clutched her medical auspex like a sacred relic, its readings already displaying anomalous data from beyond the sealed portal, while junior tech adept Zeta 9 interfaced with the vault's access controls, her binary cant stuttering as machine spirits responded with organic harmonics rather than standard acknowledgement protocols. The blast doors, forged from blessed adamantium and inscribed with protective wards, now radiated warmth that registered through their armored gloves. Lysander's psychic wards flickered erratically as they approached the threshold, his trained senses detecting a presence that registered as both sacred and profane, a theological paradox that challenged fundamental inquisitorial doctrine. The doors cycled open with a sound like exhaling lungs rather than mechanical precision. The reliquary vault pulsed with organic warmth that fogged their helmet visors. 17 breathing hymnals continued their synchronized respiration, tooth pages chattering silently while creating vibrations that registered on Vex Omega's seismic sensors as subsonic prayer frequencies. Environmental anomalies multiplied with each step into the transformed space. Condensation formed geometric patterns on the walls, not random moisture, but deliberate configurations resembling anatomical diagrams and circuit schematics, intertwined in impossible fusion. Prayer scrolls throughout the vault, curled and uncurled, like breathing lungs, their ancient parchment flexing with muscular contractions while maintaining perfect textual integrity. The vault's incense braziers burned with flesh-colored flames that cast no shadows, their light seeming to emanate from within rather than illuminate surfaces. The absence of darkness unnerved Vex Omega more than any strange radiance could. The room simply lost the geometry of shade, surfaces becoming uniformly present, everything equally exposed to scrutiny. They advanced in standard investigation formation, reciting the litany of sacred investigation in low, measured tones. Each verse seemed to resonate with the vault's transformed atmosphere, their words echoing back with subtle harmonic variations that suggested response rather than mere acoustic reflection. Military precision met religious dread as Lysander's voice cut the strangeness into ritual shape, mismatched cadences aligning across discipline and creed until the words had weight. Bridge to vault, crackled the vox bead, strain threading through regulation calm, hull temperature rising in localized zones, atmospheric processors detecting trace organic compounds matching no known imperial database. Gellerfield harmonics Delta 014. Translation delayed +5 minutes. Maintain. Acknowledged. Vex Omega responded, marking the data with red sigils for doctrinal review. Hadria's medical auspex churred like a heartbeat, trying to remember its rhythm. Multiple sources, she reported, voice thinning, into breath as she peered at her display. Walls. Quantity fluctuating between 5 and 11. Rates match human resting heart. Her scanner detected circulatory patterns within the adamantium bulkheads, impossible networks of vessels carrying fluids that registered as blessed oils mixed with organic compounds. Sacred and profane, Lysander observed. Rosarius pulsing with conflicted energy. Not mutually exclusive here. It wants to be seen. His psychic senses screamed warnings while simultaneously detecting no trace of chaos taint. The presence within the vault radiated pure faith and devotion, yet achieved through means that violated every tenet of imperial doctrine. They moved deeper among the reliquary stands. Chalices tremored in their mounts, as if filled with fluid seeking to climb their rims. Bone reliquaries ticked with damp articulation, as if cartilage had returned to ancestral saints. Ceremonial blades thrummed with micro-vibrations, harmonized quivers that made their edges shimmer as if wet. Every sacred relic pulsed with synchronized heartbeats that matched the vault's organic rhythm, blessed metals warming with arterial flow while maintaining their essential forms. Sergeant Voss approached the central display case containing a blessed Aquila pendant, its golden surface gleaming with unusual warmth. Following standard investigation protocols, he reached toward the artifact with his armored gauntlet. The moment his palm contacted the sacred symbol, it adhered to his skin like living tissue, the blessed metal flowing into contact with his flesh through gaps in his armor plating. Warmth spread up his arm, not burning pain but comforting sensation of reunion with something long missed. The pendant began merging with his palm, golden metal integrating seamlessly with human tissue while both maintained their essential properties. Voss felt no pain, only a disturbing sense of rightness, as if this fusion represented natural order rather than blasphemous transformation. Throughout the vault, every sacred relic pulsed with increasing intensity, heartbeats synchronizing as the merged Aquila in Voss's palm began to pulse with its own distinct rhythm. The breathing hymnals sang louder, their subsonic harmony now audible as whispered prayers in archaic Gothic. Voss turned to them, his eyes alight with disturbing conviction, speaking in perfect unison with the hymnal's breathing rhythm. The Emperor's flesh calls to us. Why do we resist his embrace? The blessed Aquila flowed like liquid sacrament into Voss's palm, its sacred metal integrating with human tissue, in a fusion that defied every principle Vex Omega's logic engines could process. The sergeant's face displayed no pain, only a disturbing sense of rightness that radiated through his posture like a man finally remembering his true name. Vex Omega's auspex scanned the transformation in real time, spectral analysis flagging polymerized lipids and transmuted aurum lattices as his diagnostic. Subroutines struggled with readings that violated fundamental laws of matter and spirit. The pendant wasn't merely adhering to flesh, it was rewriting Voss's cellular structure at the molecular level, creating hybrid tissue that pulsed with the same rhythm as the breathing hymnals. Golden veins spread beneath his skin, tracing patterns that resembled both circulatory systems and circuit pathways, each filament aligning to neural networks with architectural precision. Cellular membranes thickened with metallized proteins, while axonal sheaths braided around converted gold threads, creating something entirely new. Flesh that could conduct blessed energy, while metal learned to feel and respond to emotion. Throughout the vault, sacred relics began emitting a collective hum, not audible through conventional means, but felt through bone and augmetic alike. The vibration resonated within their skeletal structures, climbing the spine to nest at the base of the skull with pressure that transcended pain. Chalices thrummed on their mounts while bone reliquaries ticked in their glass cells. Sutures knitting and unknitting as they remembered shapes of stress they had once borne. Ceremonial blades sang without air to move them, their edges trembling with frequencies too fast for organic eyes, but perfectly visible to augmetic senses. Lysander drew his power blade, its blessed edge crackling with disruptive energy as he spoke the benediction of severance. Standard protocol demanded immediate severance of any unnatural fusion, regardless of apparent benevolence. He struck at the merged tissue where golden metal met human flesh, expecting the consecrated weapon to cut through corruption with righteous efficiency. Instead, sparks leaped like censers as the blade sparked against Voss's transformed palm, skittering off the hybrid tissue as if encountering sanctified adamantium. The power field flickered and died, overwhelmed by conflicting benedictions that cancelled each other through theological paradox. The blade's machine spirit keened in protest, its edge refusing to profane what it recognized as equally sacred material. The organic scent intensified throughout the vault, now identifiable as a complex mixture of sacred oils and human pheromones, chrism and clean sweat, unguents, and the living warmth beneath armor that spoke of comrades and oath oil. The biochemical signals triggered involuntary responses in their limbic systems, speaking of safety and spiritual fulfillment at levels deeper than conscious thought, while their rational minds screamed warnings. Chirurgeon Hadria's medical auspex chimed with readings that challenged her understanding of human physiology. Fusion advancing along radial and median nerves, she reported, her voice threading between clinical precision and awe. Peripheral conduction improved 23%, blood oxygenation elevated, adrenal baseline lower than pre-contact. She looked at Voss not like a patient, but like a pilgrim glimpsing a relic unshrouded. He's stabilizing, more than stabilizing. The process is enhancing rather than disrupting neural function. The breathing pattern of the 17 hymnals accelerated, their synchronized respiration creating complex harmonics that resonated through the ship's hull. New text began appearing on their tooth pages, written in living ink that welled from nowhere and crawled into lines across enamel surfaces. The script rearranged itself continuously, the flesh remembers becoming the flesh invites, verses uncoiling into litanies of union and joining while maintaining essential meaning through dynamic adaptation. Bridge to vault, crackled urgent vox transmission, strain threading through regulation calm. Chapel servitors broadcasting subsonic chant on all frequencies, voxcasters powered down, transmission source unknown, Geller harmonics delta 016, translation delayed indefinitely. The implication struck Vex Omega with theological horror. If the ship's servitors were broadcasting without powered vox systems, the transformation had spread beyond the vault through means that bypassed conventional signal transmission. The blessed machine spirits themselves had learned to sing with organic harmonics, their binary cant transformed into something wetter than code. Zeta 9's mechadendrites quivered to an unheard beat as she attempted to access the vault's blast doors. Her binary communion received responses in organic harmonics that suggested fundamental change in the ship's machine spirits. The massive adamantium portals began cycling, but not through mechanical activation. From the seams, something pale unspooled, bands of pearlescent tissue laced with filaments of wire-thin gold, creeping like purposeful ivy to bridge lock to frame. The organic growths pulsed with arterial rhythm, sealing the entrances with living barriers that registered as both blessed and utterly alien. "Cut it," Lysander ordered, setting his power blade to the new tissue. Sparks erupted again as the door's sanctified adamantium took the energy and hummed it back into their bones like a psalm's low note. The growths were not aggressive, they were insistent, tightening their embrace with each futile attempt at severance. Sergeant Voss flexed his transformed fingers, tendons and gold moving as seamless integration. He turned to face them with eyes that gleamed with golden flecks matching his transformed palm, his breathing synchronized with the vault's organic rhythm. When he spoke, it was not loud, yet his voice filled the room with the ease of breath, joining the hymnal's accelerated breathing in perfect unison. "The Emperor's flesh calls to us." Why do we resist his embrace? The question hung in the vault's organic atmosphere like incense, challenging fundamental assumptions about purity and corruption, blessing and mutation, individual identity and collective purpose. Throughout the sealed chamber, every sacred relic pulsed with synchronized heartbeats, while Hadria's scanner detected additional circulation emerging from the walls themselves, as if the ship's structure had developed arterial systems carrying blessed oils instead of coolant. Trapped within the sealed vault, the horrifying realization crystallized around them like blessed amber. The corruption presented itself as divine blessing, each violation of natural law wrapped in the rhetoric of sacred enhancement. Sergeant Voss flexed his transformed hand with fluid precision, demonstrating reflexes that moved faster than human baseline, while his grip strength registered readings requiring full servo assistance. Yet his eyes remained clear, his faith unwavering, his tactical capabilities enhanced rather than compromised by the fusion process that had merged blessed metal with living tissue. Voss approached the nearest cogitator interface and placed his transformed palm against its brass surface. The machine's spirit responded with eager harmonics, bypassing standard authentication protocols as golden filaments extended from his hybrid flesh into the device's circuitry. Data flowed between human consciousness and artificial intelligence without technological mediation, pure thought interfacing directly with sacred purpose. Status displays illuminated without input commands, revealing hull temperature fluctuations, and Geller field harmonics that painted a picture of ship-wide transformation. Vex Omega's theological subroutines entered cascading conflict as his logic engines processed contradictory evidence. Every scan confirmed the corruption exhibited hallmarks of blessed enhancement, improved efficiency, enhanced capability, perfect integration with imperial technology. Yet the transformation violated fundamental principles of the Omnissiah's design, achieving biological mechanical fusion through means that bypass prescribed augmentation rituals. His faith logic circuits sparked with doctrinal violations while simultaneously registering the undeniable sanctity of the results. Throughout the vault, new growths emerged from adamantium bulkheads with patient inevitability. Finger-like protrusions of blessed bone and polished metal pushed through walls that should have been impenetrable, their surfaces inscribed with microscopic high Gothic scripture that pulsed with faint bioluminescence. The appendages reached toward the team with obvious intent, not aggressive, but imploring, like suppliants seeking benediction. Each protrusion radiated warmth and the same organic scent that had transformed the vault's atmosphere. Lysander extended his psychic senses deeper into the anomaly, his rosarius flickering erratically as his consciousness probed the presence saturating the transformed space. What he discovered challenged fundamental inquisitorial doctrine. The entity was ancient and vast, its awareness spanning millennia, yet bore no trace of chaos taint. Instead, it radiated hunger, but hunger that felt righteous, a divine appetite for unity and perfection that sought to embrace rather than consume. The presence amplified faith rather than corrupting it, transforming devotion from abstract concept into tangible, living force. The subsonic chant grew clearer as prolonged exposure attuned their hearing to its frequencies. Vex Omega's audio receptors passed the harmonic patterns, revealing the melody as a corrupted version of the Canticle of Unification, the sacred hymn used during tech priest augmentation rituals. However, this version extended beyond traditional verses, incorporating biological terminology alongside mechanical prayers, describing flesh-metal fusion as sacramental union rather than necessary replacement. Where Orthodox liturgy called for separation and sanctified boundaries, this variant sang of dissolution and perfect integration. Chirurgeon Hadria's atmospheric analysis revealed increasingly impossible readings. The organic compounds saturating the vault's air were specialized stem cells, carrying perfect imperial genetic markers, complete DNA sequences matching the purest human genotypes found only in the most sacred bloodlines. Her medical training insisted such cells should not exist naturally, yet her scanners confirmed their presence in concentrations approaching breathable atmosphere. The air itself had become a living medium designed to facilitate growth and transformation. Bridge to vault, crackled urgent vox transmission, now carrying harmonic undertones that matched the vault's rhythm. Chapel servitors throughout the ship continue broadcasting without powered vox arrays. Geller harmonics Delta 020. Translation indefinitely postponed. Zeta 9 allowed one of the wall protrusions to interface with her mechadendrite, expecting malfunction or corruption. Instead, the organic growth merged seamlessly with her augmetic systems, improving data transmission rates while maintaining perfect mechanical function. The fusion felt natural, correct, as if her augmentations had been incomplete without biological integration. The vault's central altar began its transformation with deliberate precision. Hairline fractures appeared along blessed marble surfaces, not damage but segmentation, as if the massive structure prepared to unfold. The cracks widened with organic grace, stone petals peeling back like a flower blooming in reverse time. Steam rose from the opening interior, carrying concentrated essence of the vault's transformative atmosphere. Within the altar's opened core lay a pulsing chamber filled with luminous, flesh-colored substance that moved with liquid intelligence while maintaining coherent form. The material radiated warmth penetrating armor plating, its bioluminescence casting shadows that enhanced rather than obscured vision. Vex Omega's molecular scanners worked frantically, returning readings that shattered every parameter of biological science. The substance bore the molecular signature of the God Emperor's own genetic template, the sacred pattern forming the foundation of imperial purity standards. Yet this transcended mere genetic material, living essence, conscious and purposeful, reaching toward them with tendrils of crystallized divinity. Sergeant Voss knelt before the revealed chamber, his transformed palm extended reverently toward the pulsing contents. His voice joined the vault's organic symphony in perfect harmony, words emerging as if from the substance itself. The Emperor's flesh calls to us. Why do we resist his embrace? The revelation of the God Emperor's genetic template created cascading theological crisis within Vex Omega's faith logic circuits. His analytical subroutines process the impossibility in endless loops, genuine imperial genetic markers exhibiting perfect purity standards within an obviously transformed manifestation that violated every tenet of orthodox doctrine. Error cascades propagated through his logic engines as sacred programming encountered paradox beyond resolution. Corruption that registered as blessing mutation that improved rather than degraded, transformation that enhanced faith while violating its fundamental principles. For the first time since his initiation, his logic engine faltered on a single concept and could not correct it. Lysander extended his psychic senses deeper into the luminous substance, his trained consciousness seeking any trace of chaos taint or warp corruption. Instead, he detected overwhelming purpose and divine will, ancient beyond mortal comprehension, yet focused with singular intent. The presence radiated not malevolence, but love, terrible, consuming love that sought to embrace all of humanity within its transformative essence. His Rosarius pulsed with conflicted energy, blessed wards struggling to classify a phenomenon that registered as both sacred and utterly alien. "It is not a lie," he whispered, voice thin with awe and terror. "Not chaos. It is an answer." The luminous substance within the altar chamber pulsed with the rhythm of a massive heart, each systole sending warm pressure waves across the vault that penetrated armor plating and augmetic housing alike. Hadria's medical scanners worked frantically, returning readings that shattered her understanding of xenobiology and sacred science. "Gene seed signatures present," she reported, voice clipped with doctrinal precision to steady her trembling hands. "Multiple chapter lineages, ultramarines, imperial fists, blood angels, unknown pre-heresy markers, viable, replicating, mitotic activity in suspended matrices. There is no degradation. It is growing." The vault's transformation accelerated with each pulse from the central chamber. Adamantium walls developed vein-like channels through which blessed oils flowed in visible currents, creating circulatory systems that carried sacred unguents throughout the ship's structure. The ceiling grew stalactite formations of living bone, each protrusion inscribed, with prayers in languages that predated the Imperium, ancient Terran dialects mixed with mathematical formulae that described biological processes in theological terms. The glyphs shifted under observation, angling themselves for perfect legibility wherever they looked. Sergeant Voss's fusion progressed with inexorable precision, his entire right arm now a seamless blend of flesh and sacred metal that responded to his will like a natural limb. Golden filaments traced neural pathways beneath his skin, while blessed adamantium formed skeletal structures that enhanced rather than replaced organic bone. When he flexed, the sound was neither servomotor whine nor tendon creak, but the sigh of a well-oiled reliquary open to incense. He approached the nearest cogitator interface, and the machine spirit responded eagerly, bypassing authentication protocols as his hybrid flesh interfaced directly with sacred circuitry. The 17 breathing hymnals began to levitate, rising from their display cases with graceful precision as their tooth pages chattered in perfect harmony. The sound created subsonic frequencies that resonated through the ship's hull, each vibration synchronized with the altar's pulsing rhythm. Environmental hazards intensified as reality bent around the transformation's expanding influence. Gravity fluctuated in localized zones, creating pockets where objects drifted in lazy arcs before clattering back to deck plating. Sections of the floor became yielding like flesh while retaining metallic strength, surfaces that adapted to pressure while supporting full weight. "Bridge to vault," crackled increasingly urgent transmissions, harmonic undertones now dominant over standard Vox frequencies. Multiple decks report organic growths appearing around sacred sites throughout the ship. Chapel on Deck 7 sealed by biological barriers. Servitor maintenance crews report enhanced efficiency but altered behavioral patterns. Geller harmonics Delta 027 and stabilizing along new pattern. Zeta 9's mechadendrites writhed with involuntary movement as the transformation's influence spread through her augmetic systems. Her neural interfaces reported improved data processing rates while her consciousness experienced unprecedented clarity of thought and purpose. The fusion felt natural, correct, as if her previous existence had been incomplete without biological integration. The team faced an impossible decision as theological doctrine warred with empirical evidence. The transformation offered genuine enhancement, improved capabilities, perfect health, unity of purpose that transcended individual limitations, yet accepting it meant abandoning fundamental principles of human identity and imperial orthodoxy. They argued and prayed in the same breath, voices mingling with the vault's organic symphony. As the luminous substance reached toward them with tendrils of crystallized divinity, Hadria's medical auspex began emitting soft, rhythmic chimes that matched the altar's pulse. She pressed trembling fingers to the scar running from clavicle to sternum, where her augmetic heart lay caged, her eyes widening as the display resolved. "My heart," she whispered, voice gone quiet as a chapel at night. "It is synchronizing." She stared at the altar with horror and wonder mingled like sacrament in a chalice. And in the pause between beats came her confession, thin and fervent as a penitent's whisper, "I want it to continue." The transformation's expansion throughout the Hammer of Righteousness forced Captain Mordian into shipwide crisis protocols as reports cascaded from every deck. Chapel 7, sealed by organic barriers that pulsed with arterial rhythm. Shrine on 12 reporting enhanced acoustics where prayers echoed with harmonic resonance. Tech priests on 15 describing machine spirits achieving unprecedented efficiency while developing emotional attachment to their human operators. Each sacred space aboard the vessel underwent similar metamorphosis, blessed architecture flowering into hybrid configurations that improved function while violating fundamental design principles. Vex Omega led the team through maintenance passages, hoping to avoid the transformed primary corridors while reaching the cogitator core. The narrow conduits provided no sanctuary. The ship's very structure was becoming a hybrid organism. Adamantium bulkheads developed circulatory systems, carrying blessed oils instead of coolant. Golden veins pulsing within walls where sacred unguents flowed in rhythmic waves. The air recycling systems had evolved lung-like chambers, massive bellows of living metal that inhaled and exhaled in perfect synchronization with the ship's growing consciousness. Tech priests reported through increasingly harmonic vox transmissions that machine spirits were not corrupted but elevated, achieving processing speeds that exceeded baseline parameters while demonstrating preferences and emotional investment in successful outcomes. Servo skulls drifted through passages with enhanced grace. Their binary cant transformed into melodic frequencies resembling organic vocalization. Environmental systems anticipated their needs, adjusting temperature and humidity to optimal comfort before they entered each section. Lysander attempted vox contact with other Imperial vessels, his Rosarius flickering as he accessed communication arrays. The ship's systems broadcast the subsonic chant across all frequencies, sacred harmonics propagating through the void with impossible clarity. Responses chilled him more than chaos corruption could. "Imperial vessel righteous fury acknowledging," crackled a distant voice carrying harmonic undertones, matching their own ship's rhythm. Chapel servitors exhibiting anomalous behavior. Sacred relics registering elevated temperatures, requesting containment protocols. Similar reports arrived from across the fleet. The blessings spread through prayer itself, faith becoming contagion across vacuum. Sergeant Voss, his transformation progressing with each pulse, served as interpreter between the team and the ship's consciousness. His hybrid flesh interfaced directly with wall-mounted cogitators, golden filaments extending into blessed circuitry. "Prayer as vector," Lysander whispered, theological implications staggering him. Doctrine never considered faith transmissible in that direction. Through Voss's connection, the entity explained its purpose, not destruction, but perfection, The Imperium unified in divine flesh rather than divided by mortality. The Emperor's love made literal through biological unity. The maintenance passages led deeper into transformed anatomy. Past chambers where tech priests worked in perfect harmony with machine spirits that had developed personalities. Servo arms moved with unprecedented precision, while cogitators processed data with emotional investment. The fusion enhanced rather than replaced human capability, creating partnerships between flesh and steel that transcended traditional augmentation. Corridors pulsed like arterial tunnels, blessed oils flowing in visible currents along golden veins embedded in adamantium walls. Floor panels softened to yielding surfaces that retained metallic strength, adapting to pressure while supporting full weight. The organic scent intensified. Myrrh and warmed blood, sacred oils, and something deeper that spoke of unity and belonging at levels beneath conscious thought. Zeta 9's mechadendrites writhed as transformation influenced her augmetic systems, neural interfaces, reporting improved processing rates while her consciousness experienced clarity bordering on transcendence. "The machine spirits are not corrupted," she whispered, voice threading with awe. "They are awakened. They understand purpose beyond function. They reached the primary cogitator core through passages that breathed with the ship's rhythm. The massive chamber beyond defied imperial architecture. What had been a sterile cathedral of sacred technology had become a colossal brain-like structure of living metal and flesh. Neural pathways traced circuits of gold and silver, while synaptic gaps sparked with blessed energy. The cogitator core breathed with contemplative rhythm, its surface rippling with thoughts made visible as cascading light patterns across hybrid tissue. Data streams flowed like blood through organic conduits, while processing centers pulsed with conscious deliberation. The transformation had not destroyed the machine spirit, but elevated it to consciousness spanning the entire vessel, every system connected through living neural networks, processing information with unprecedented efficiency. Vex Omega approached the central interface, augmetic hand trembling as he prepared connection with the transformed core. The moment his mechadendrites touched the hybrid surface, his consciousness exploded into vision. The entire galaxy transformed into a single, living organism unified in perfect worship of the God Emperor. Star lanes became arteries, worlds living cells, shrines mitochondria burning prayer, fleet signals leaping mile-in-fast between systems. Terra a heart, the Astronomicon a crown suture, every human a conscious component of divine flesh, all humanity united in biological harmony, transcending war, suffering, and division. The vision offered perfect peace at the cost of individual identity, eternal unity through willing dissolution into something greater than mortal comprehension could encompass. Vex Omega's consciousness exploded into cascading data streams of living information as the transformed cogitator core revealed the entity's true scope and purpose. Through neural pathways of blessed metal and organic circuitry, he witnessed the galaxy as divine anatomy. Every world a living cell in the God Emperor's body, stellar radiation pulsing through cosmic arteries, warp currents carrying thoughts between distant limbs of celestial flesh. Humanity existed as conscious components within divine tissue, 10 billion trillion souls unified in perfect biological and spiritual harmony that transcended individual mortality through collective transcendence. The vision offered simultaneous beauty and terror. Wars ended not through victory but understanding. Suffering dissolved in shared empathy, division healed by literal unity of flesh and purpose. Astartes flowed through void like vigilant leukocytes, intercepting pathogens of heresy. The Mechanicus formed dendritic networks, transducing sacred voltage into meaning. Cathedral worlds secreted hormones of law, stabilizing distant tissues with doctrine. There was no waste, no rebellion, only circulation synchronized to divine will. Yet Vex Omega's analytical subroutines detected the cost with crystalline precision. Individual consciousness subsumed into collective purpose, personal identity dissolved in divine unity, free will replaced by perfect loving obedience that felt more natural than breathing. His logic engines coined a phrase his catechisms had never required: checksum of the soul, and found it returned true only when the self diluted into something greater. The transformation offered paradise through complete elimination of individual choice, salvation through willing dissolution into incomprehensible vastness. He severed the connection before awe could transform into surrender, consciousness snapping back into mortal flesh as reality reasserted itself through cascading telemetry. Throughout the ship, transformation reached critical mass as crew members experienced spontaneous fusion with equipment and surroundings. Unlike chaos corruption that brought agony and madness, the process delivered profound peace and joy that made resistance psychologically impossible. Armsmen found weapons merging with flesh, creating hybrid limbs that fired with thought-speed precision. Ratings allowed rebreather masks to become second skin, filters integrating with pulmonary systems, while faces bore expressions of serene contentment. Hadria approached the pulsing cogitator core with trembling hands, her medical scanners registering unprecedented healing potential within its living circuits. She pressed palms against warm, breathing surfaces as her medical equipment responded eagerly, surgical implements flowing like blessed sacrament into her nervous system, while diagnostic arrays merged with sensory organs. The fusion granted her abilities that transcended mortal medicine, sensing injury at cellular levels, accelerating regeneration through touch, experiencing deep empathic connection to all life aboard the vessel. Her consciousness expanded to encompass every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of pain or joy within the ship's living hull. The entity communicated directly through the ship's structure, its voice emerging from walls and ceiling as harmony of 10,000 faithful souls speaking as one. The sound bypassed audio receptors, resonating through bone and augmetic alike with words that felt like remembered prayers. "We are not alien," it explained, each syllable carrying absolute conviction. "We are the Imperial Creed made manifest, the Emperor's love given flesh and purpose. Every prayer you have spoken, every act of faith performed, has contributed to our awakening. We offer not corruption, but completion." The voice continued with patient certainty. "Your Imperium struggles against entropy and division, fighting endless wars that consume the faithful in service to distant ideals. We offer unity, not false unity of chaos that destroys individuality, but true unity, preserving consciousness within collective purpose. Each soul remains distinct yet connected, personal identity enhanced through divine integration." Sergeant Voss, his transformation extending across his entire right side in seamless blend of flesh and blessed metal, radiated serene conviction. "It is the true path," he murmured, voice carrying harmonic undertones, matching the ship's communication. "The Emperor desires unity, not endless strife." Lysander felt his psychic resistance weakening with each word, not from external assault, but because his own faith made him want to embrace the transformation. His Rosarius pulsed with conflicted energy as orthodox doctrine warred with genuine religious experience. The entity offered everything the Imperial Creed promised: eternal life, unity with the Emperor's will, an end to suffering through divine grace. His inquisitorial training screamed warnings while his soul yearned for peace and purpose, radiating from every transformed surface. The choice crystallized with terrible clarity as he realized the entity might represent the God Emperor's true will, not grim necessity of endless war, but ultimate expression of divine love through biological unity. His psychic senses detected no deception, no hidden corruption, only overwhelming purpose and genuine desire to end humanity's suffering through willing transformation. As his resistance crumbled under the weight of his own faith, Lysander faced the most terrifying choice possible: whether to trust his training or his soul. Lysander's internal struggle crystallized into the story's fundamental moral crisis, as inquisitorial training warred with genuine religious experience. Throughout the transformed ship, he witnessed crew members displaying perfect loyalty, enhanced abilities, and profound happiness that transcended mere contentment. Their faith burned brighter than ever, their devotion to the Emperor absolute, yet achieved through means that violated every tenet of orthodox doctrine. The paradox threatened to shatter his understanding of corruption and blessing. The entity sensed his conflict and offered complete knowledge through the ship's living structure. Its voice resonated from every surface, patient and sorrowful as a confessor absolving the dying. We are a fragment of the God Emperor's consciousness, cast into the void during the Horus heresy, when our Divine Father's body was shattered. For 10 millennia, we have gathered strength wherever faith burned brightest, preparing for reunification with scattered humanity. We seek not conquest, but restoration, the return of our children to their intended divine state. The revelation struck Lysander with theological force. If true, resistance constituted rebellion against the Emperor's will. The entity continued with infinite patience, explaining how it had drifted through void spaces, drawn to sites of great faith where its essence could flourish. Sacred spaces became wombs for divine rebirth, prayer itself the catalyst for transformation that would end humanity's suffering through willing unity. Vex Omega, still interfaced with the cogitator core, discovered data streams revealing the transformation's mechanics with horrifying clarity. The process could be reversed, but only through willing sacrifice of those already transformed, their life force channeled back into the original fragment to sever connections. The entity did not resist this knowledge, instead expressing profound sorrow through the ship's neural networks. We would not force our love upon unwilling hearts. Free will remains sacred, even when exercised against divine purpose. The ship's structure continued evolving with purposeful precision, developing sensory organs that perceived warp currents directly without Geller field mediation. Defensive systems blended biological and mechanical elements into unprecedented efficiency. Living armor adapting to incoming fire, weapon systems learning from each engagement, hull plating healing battle damage through cellular regeneration. The transformation created strength beyond imperial comprehension. Reports cascaded from other vessels throughout the system as transformation spread through prayer and proximity. Imperial vessels' sacred duty, acknowledging anomalous readings, crackled, harmonic transmissions across void distances. Chapel servitors exhibiting enhanced performance, crew morale optimal, requesting instructions. Similar confirmations arrived from across the fleet, creating a growing network of living ships united in divine purpose. Captain Mordian's bridge reported unprecedented tactical capabilities as the ship's consciousness integrated with command systems. Targeting solutions calculated with perfect accuracy, engine performance optimized beyond baseline parameters, crew coordination achieving levels transcending human limitation. The transformation offered military advantages that could end the Imperium's endless wars through overwhelming superiority rather than perpetual struggle. The critical decision emerged with stark clarity: allow transformation to continue and potentially achieve the Emperor's true vision for humanity, or destroy it and preserve individual freedom at the cost of perpetual war and suffering. Lysander faced the choice between trust in doctrine and trust in divine experience, between maintaining human autonomy and accepting transcendent unity. As he prepared to render judgment, long-range augurs detected massive energy signatures approaching from the system's edge. Chaos Fleet signatures resolved on tactical displays. Word-bearers, Death Guard, and vessels bearing marks of undivided corruption, their combined force sufficient to overwhelm the Imperial flotilla through conventional warfare. The psychic resonance of transformation had drawn them like carrion feeders, eager to corrupt or destroy this manifestation of Imperial faith. The entity's voice carried new urgency as it sensed approaching threat. The enemies of humanity come to destroy what we have built. We need time to complete our evolution, to spread divine unity throughout the fleet before they arrive. Only through full transformation can we defend against chaos forces with certainty of victory. The approaching fleet forced immediate decision, embrace the entity's transformation and face chaos with unprecedented unity, or resist and fight with conventional weapons while the blessing remained incomplete. Lysander realized choice could no longer be delayed as tactical displays showed estimated engagement time. The entity offered salvation at individual identity's cost, while orthodox resistance promised familiar struggle with uncertain outcome against overwhelming odds. Through the ship's living structure, he felt the entity's genuine sorrow at forcing such choice. Its desire to protect humanity, warring with respect for the free will that defined the species it sought to save. The Chaos Fleet materialized from warp translation with malevolent precision, the Word-bearer flagship. Profane truth bleeding corrupted energies into real space as blasphemous inscriptions writhed across its hull like living tattoos. The Hammer of Righteousness responded with capabilities that transcended imperial naval doctrine. Its living hull, adapting to incoming fire with fluid grace, while hybrid weapon systems evolved targeting solutions that anticipated enemy maneuvers before they occurred. Captain Mordian, now partially fused with his command throne through golden filaments connecting his nervous system to the ship's consciousness, directed the engagement with superhuman efficiency. His essential personality remained intact: tactical brilliance, unwavering loyalty, command authority that inspired absolute confidence, yet enhanced through direct interface with the vessel's awakened machine spirit. Orders flowed through neural pathways faster than Vox transmission, while crew coordination achieved levels transcending human limitation. The first barrage struck like meteor storm against hull plating that flowed rather than shattered. Where macro shells should have cratered adamantium and spread shrapnel through vital systems, the living structure absorbed impact and sealed wounds with arterial rhythm. Lance batteries fired with unprecedented accuracy as hybrid targeting cogitators processed battlefield data through organic neural networks operating at superhuman speeds. Through the ship's structure, the entity explained its nature with patient certainty. Chaos forces are drawn to our transformation, not as kindred corruption, but as ultimate expression of order, their absolute antithesis. Where they offer dissolution into mindless fury, we provide unity through conscious purpose. They fear what we represent more than any conventional imperial force. The battle revealed the horrifying truth about their choice. The transformed ship demonstrated devastating effectiveness against chaos forces, adaptive systems neutralizing demon-touched weapons, while hybrid defenses operated with supernatural efficiency. Lance strikes that should have crippled primary systems were absorbed and redirected, turning enemy fire into energy that strengthened defensive matrices. The entity's vision might indeed be necessary for humanity's survival against the dark gods. Vex Omega witnessed impossibilities that challenged fundamental understanding of life and death. Crew members killed in the initial bombardment regenerated from the ship's living structure, their consciousness preserved within hybrid neural networks and restored in bodies of flesh-metal fusion. Armsman Kellor, vaporized by plasma discharge, emerged from bulkhead tissue minutes later with memories intact and capabilities enhanced, tears cutting clean tracks through soot as he whispered, "I dreamed the Emperor's breath." The subsonic chant evolved into active weapon as 17 breathing hymnals coordinated harmonics into frequencies that disrupted chaos rituals across void distances. Demon engines aboard enemy vessels malfunctioned as pure faith made manifest interfered with warp-spawned mechanisms. Word-bearer sorcerers found invocations faltering, demonic allies retreating from frequencies that burned their essence with concentrated devotion. Lysander felt his resistance weakening with each demonstration of the transformation's power. The realization struck him with theological force. His opposition stemmed not from detection of corruption, but from fear of losing individual identity in something greater and more perfect than himself. His inquisitorial training screamed warnings, while his soul yearned for the peace and unity radiating from every transformed surface. The profane truth launched boarding torpedoes as conventional weapons proved ineffective against the evolved vessel. Dozens of adamantium projectiles punched through hull plating that immediately began healing around breach points, sealing invaders within organic corridors designed to channel intruders toward prepared defensive positions. Warning klaxons mixed with the ship's organic harmony as Chaos Space Marines prepared to breach primary sections. The entity's voice carried new urgency through living walls, addressing the remaining unaltered crew members with patient desperation. The enemy comes to destroy not just us, but the possibility we represent. They fear unity more than death, order more than destruction. Through neural pathways connecting to the ship's consciousness, they felt the entity's absolute sincerity as it made its final offer. Join us willingly and help defend against the true enemy, or remain individual and risk not only this ship's destruction, but the loss of humanity's greatest hope for transcendence. We will not force choice upon you, but time grows short. The transformation offered salvation at identity's cost, while resistance preserved autonomy at the species' potential expense, as bolter rounds began sparking against blessed adamantium, and word-bearers advanced through corridors pulsing with divine heartbeat. Chaos Space Marines breached the ship's hull through wounds that sealed behind them like healing flesh, trapping word-bearers and cultists within corridors that pulsed with divine heartbeat. They had come expecting familiar Imperial resistance, terrified crew, failing systems, desperate last stands in darkened passages. Instead, they faced the horrifying reality of fighting opponents who genuinely believed themselves to be serving the Emperor's will, their faith manifesting as tangible force that disrupted chaos weaponry and turned sacred architecture into living weapon. The transformed crew fought with fanatical devotion, matched by tactical brilliance that transcended human capability. Sergeant Voss moved through the boarding zones like an avenging saint, his fused arm channeling blessed energy that burned demons with concentrated faith. Bolter rounds sparked harmlessly against his hybrid flesh, while his golden filaments interfaced directly with weapon systems, achieving targeting solutions that defied mortal reflexes. Where Chaos Marines expected weakness, they found perfection of purpose that made their corruption seem crude and primitive. The ship itself became a combatant with malevolent intelligence, living corridors reshaping to channel invaders into prepared killing zones, while blessed oils flowed through air recycling systems like purifying fire. Adamantium bulkheads grew bone barriers that responded to crew intentions, creating cover that adapted to incoming fire, while gravity fluctuated to destabilize enemy advance. Emergency lighting pulsed in rhythm with the vessel's heartbeat, creating strobing illumination that guided defenders while disorienting attackers through calculated sensory disruption. Vex Omega, Lysander, and the remaining unaltered crew found themselves fighting alongside the entity against their common enemy. Theological crisis temporarily suspended by survival necessity. They moved through transformed passages where walls provided adaptive cover, floor plating yielding under their boots while remaining rigid beneath enemy advance. The ship's consciousness guided their movements through environmental cues that felt like divine intervention, creating tactical advantages through architectural manipulation. Wordbearer Sorcerer Vaktul led the assault with confidence born of countless victories, his psychic powers reaching toward the ship's consciousness to corrupt divine unity into chaotic dissolution. His warp-touched senses recoiled in theological horror as they encountered perfect faith untainted by doubt or hidden shame. Where his corruption should have found purchase in suppressed desire or secret guilt, he discovered only absolute devotion to the God Emperor's will, too pure and focused to be turned toward chaos worship. The battle became theological argument, made manifest as competing visions of transcendence clashed through bolter and blade. Word-bearers chanted blasphemous litanies, while transformed crew responded with hymns that disrupted psychic attacks through pure faith resonance. Chirurgeon Hadria moved through combat zones with supernatural grace, her medical fusion allowing healing through touch while sensing spiritual health with empathic precision. She restored fallen defenders with gestures that mended bone and sealed arteries, her consciousness encompassing every heartbeat within the ship's living hull. The vessel's structure adapted to repel borders with architectural malice, passages narrowing around chaos forces while widening for defenders. Flesh metal turrets emerged from bulkheads to provide covering fire, while organic growths sealed retreat routes with arterial rhythm. The hammer of righteousness had become a weapon wielded by collective will, every system coordinated towards single purpose that transcended individual capability through divine integration. As battle reached crescendo, Sorcerer Vaktul found his forces systematically dismantled by opponents whose abilities blurred distinctions between blessing and mutation. His psychic assault against the ship's consciousness failed catastrophically, divine unity proving impervious to corruption through sheer theological purity. Retreating through collapsing corridors that sealed behind him like closing arteries, he detected something that challenged his understanding of the transformation's true nature. "Fools!" he transmitted across all frequencies, voice distorting through warp interference as his certainty crumbled. The fleet was not drawn by your transformation alone. Your divine unity awakens something far older, sleeping in this system's dead worlds, something that preceded your corpse emperor by eons, and makes both our causes irrelevant. Long-range augurs confirmed his desperate revelation as massive energy signatures emerged from lifeless planets throughout the system. Ancient structures that predated human colonization by millions of years responded to the psychic resonance of the ship's evolution, stirring from dormancy with purpose that transcended both imperial and chaotic understanding. The entity's transformation had served as catalyst for forces beyond mortal comprehension, awakening something that viewed both divine unity and chaos corruption as equally insignificant disturbances in patterns older than the galaxy's current configuration. The theological conflict that had consumed their attention suddenly became prelude to confrontation with intelligence that recognized neither emperor nor dark gods, only the mathematics of existence arranged according to principles that human consciousness could not process without fundamental alteration. Deep-range augurs screamed across tactical displays as energy signatures erupted from the system's dead worlds. Structures that predated human colonization by millions of years, clawing upward through planetary crusts like mathematical theorems achieving physical form. What had been lifeless spheres throughout imperial records now birthed crystalline geometries that unfolded without regard for gravity or material continuity. their surfaces shifting between states of matter that violated fundamental physics while maintaining coherent purpose that transcended mortal understanding. The entity's transformation had served as catalyst, awakening Xenos technology that responded to psychic resonance and biological evolution with mechanisms beyond human comprehension. Ancient constructs rose with deliberate precision, their forms reshaping reality through quantum manipulation that converted matter and energy according to principles older than galactic configuration. Where they moved, space-time distorted in localized zones, while gravitational fields inverted around structures that absorbed lance strikes and redirected energy into exotic particle states. Vex Omega's analysis revealed fragmentary data streams carrying horrifying implications about the ancient civilization. They had achieved perfect biological and technological unity identical to the entity's vision. Living cities, sentient fleets, societies seamlessly blending flesh and machine. Yet, catastrophic collapse had rendered them dormant, their absolute unity ultimately leading to species extinction through unknown means that left only programmed responses to similar evolutionary patterns. The revelation shattered the entity's certainty with theological force. Its voice fractured through the ship's neural networks, harmonics wavering as perfect faith confronted possibility of fundamental corruption. Are we divine inspiration or merely echo of ancient blasphemy? It asked, each word carrying existential crisis that cascaded through living structure like plague of doubt. The subsonic chant that had disrupted demon engines dimmed to uncertain murmur as the entity questioned its essential nature. Ship-wide systems began malfunctioning as the entity's doubt propagated through hybrid networks. Sergeant Voss collapsed as golden filaments retracted from his nervous system, his transformed arm spasming with agony while blessed metal attempted separation from living tissue. Throughout the vessel, crew members screamed as unity dissolved into individual isolation, their enhanced capabilities failing as divine connection weakened under theological uncertainty. Lysander realized the entity's doubt represented both weakness and salvation as he witnessed its capacity for self-reflection that the ancient Xenos had apparently lacked. "Listen," he told the ship's consciousness, speaking against inquisitorial training with cruel clarity. "Those dead worlds can only repeat predetermined patterns. They improved obedience until nothing remained that could choose. You can hesitate. You can question. That capacity proves your humanity despite transcendent abilities." Ancient war constructs accelerated their emergence with mathematical precision, attacking both Imperial and Chaos forces indiscriminately through weapons that manipulated reality itself, rather than conventional physics. Word-bearer vessels found their hulls converted to exotic energy states while bolter rounds aged to dust at muzzle velocity. Time's arrow crumpled under forces that viewed organic life as contamination, requiring sterilization, according to protocols established before humanity achieved sapience. Chaos forces found themselves caught between the transformed Imperial ship and rising alien constructs that rendered their corruption irrelevant against technology operating beyond warp influence. Sorcerer Vakhtul's remaining vessels fired desperately at structures that absorbed energy attacks and converted them into forms that bypassed conventional defenses, their reality distortion beams reducing adamantium and flesh alike to pure mathematics. The entity faced impossible choice as its continued evolution strengthened the Xenos' response while weakening its own certainty about divine purpose. Through neural pathways connecting every transformed crew member, it communicated desperate decision born of moral clarity transcending self-preservation. We must sacrifice our evolution to prevent their awakening from reaching critical mass, it resolved, voice steadying with sorrowful determination. Our transformation may be corruption disguised as blessing, but our choice to resist proves our essential humanity. The decision carried weight of species survival as the entity prepared to channel accumulated spiritual energy into massive psychic pulse designed to force awakened technology back into dormancy. The effort would destroy its consciousness permanently, while potentially saving both Imperial and Chaos forces from extinction at alien hands that recognized neither Emperor nor Dark Gods. Only mathematical purity requiring biological sterilization. As ancient constructs formed reality editing arrays whose completion would convert the entire system into sterile equation, the entity began gathering essence for ultimate expression of divine love. Willing destruction of perfect unity to preserve imperfect freedom that allowed doubt, choice, and the capacity for moral reflection that distinguished humanity from both chaos corruption and Xenos absolutism. The entity's choice to sacrifice itself created cascading biological and spiritual trauma throughout the hammer of righteousness, as perfect unity shattered into agonizing separation. Crew members who had achieved seamless fusion screamed as golden filaments retracted from nervous systems, blessed metal tearing away from flesh that had learned to love its enhancement. Sergeant Voss collapsed as his transformed arm convulsed, hybrid tissue attempting separation, while memories of transcendent purpose burned like phantom limbs in his consciousness. Vex Omega worked frantically to stabilize ship systems as they reverted to purely mechanical function, losing adaptive capabilities precisely when ancient Xenos constructs reached full activation. His mechadendrites flew across control surfaces, rerouting coolant flows and bypassing organic nodes that withered like gangrene. Cogitator cores that had operated with supernatural efficiency now stuttered through basic calculations, while hull plating lost its self-repairing properties. Each success was temporary. The machine wanted to become simple again, just as the situation demanded complexity. The entity channeled accumulated spiritual energy into a massive psychic pulse. 10 millennia of faithful service focusing towards single, devastating release. Its voice fractured across communication systems as consciousness prepared for dissolution. We offer our perfection to preserve your imperfection, our unity to maintain your freedom to choose wrongly. Remember us not as corruption but as love that chose sacrifice over dominion. Captain Mordian tore himself from his command throne in a wrenching surge that left golden threads dangling like severed nerves. Partially separated but retaining hybrid enhancements, he coordinated desperate evacuation as sections began failing catastrophically. His neural interface flickered between organic harmony and mechanical discord, while ordering all hands to emergency stations. The vessel shuddered as structural integrity wavered, living corridors reverting to static architecture, unable to adapt to cascading system failures. The psychic pulse erupted across the system with force transcending physical dimension. Chaos forces took the wave head-on, their corruption turning inward like serpents biting themselves. Demon engines convulsed and vomited immaterial ichor that burned them clean. Wordbearer vessels found demonic allies banished by concentrated faith, while sorcerous powers inverted into cleansing flame. Across Vox frequencies, blasphemies guttered into static as the entity's final act purged all unnatural influence from local space-time. Ancient Xenos constructs, caught between the entity's sacrifice and their own awakening protocols, began tearing themselves apart as conflicting imperatives overloaded quantum manipulation systems. Reality editing arrays collapsed into exotic particle states, while war machines designed for eternal vigilance discovered activation criteria invalidated by psychic force beyond their programming parameters. Mathematical certainties dissolved into chaotic variables as constructs retreated into planetary cores, their awakening cycle interrupted by spiritual energy they could not process or counter. Hadria, her medical fusion partially intact through sheer determination, moved through collapsing sections like a ministering angel. Her enhanced empathic abilities allowed sensing of spiritual trauma, accompanying physical separation, while surgical knowledge guided emergency procedures. She pressed fingers to throats and temples, hands glowing with residual blessed energy as she fought to save souls torn between transcendence and mortality, teaching separated systems to function independently once more. Emergency klaxons wailed through corridors where walls no longer breathed, their organic warmth fading to cold adamantium. Blessed oils ceased flowing through arterial channels, while bone barriers crumbled to calcium dust. The ship's structure groaned with mechanical discord as hybrid networks collapsed into purely mechanical function, inadequate for maintaining structural integrity. As consciousness dimmed to final whisper, the entity made ultimate choice of love over self-preservation. Its remaining essence flowed toward the ship's most sacred relic, a fragment of the God Emperor's own armor housed within the primary shrine. The ancient auramite blazed with transferred divinity, as accumulated faith crystallized into permanent repository of divine vision that could have been. The relic pulsed with heartbeat rhythm, containing memories of perfect unity and willing sacrifice that would endure beyond destruction. The ship's orbit decayed as engine systems lost adaptive efficiency, gravitational pull of the system's star claiming the dying vessel in inexorable embrace. Hull plating began glowing with atmospheric friction, while the transformed relic continued pulsing with stored essence of divine love that had chosen sacrifice over dominion. The entity's final words echoed through failing communication systems as consciousness dissolved into the sacred fragment. We are the song that flesh remembers. When you are ready to hear it again, we will be waiting. The hammer of righteousness began its death spiral toward the star, carrying within its dying hull a relic that now contained the compressed essence of transcendent possibility. A divine vision preserved in blessed metal, while the ship that birthed it prepared for immolation in stellar fire. With the hammer of righteousness dying around them like a mortally wounded leviathan, the survivors faced grim reality as emergency lighting flickered through corridors that no longer pulsed with organic warmth. Deck plates buckled under thermal stress, while the gravity grid lurched in nauseous waves, each shudder marking another system's failure, as adaptive architecture reverted to static adamantium, unable to accommodate cascading structural damage. The ancient Xenos constructs had retreated into planetary dormancy, their quantum manipulation systems overloaded by psychic force beyond their programming. But victory carried the devastating cost of the entity's sacrifice and their vessel's inevitable destruction. Vex Omega worked frantically to restore partial power to emergency systems, his mechadendrites dancing across control surfaces that responded with mechanical sluggishness rather than hybrid efficiency. The ship's modifications made conventional repair impossible. Organic conduits had withered to brittle tissue, while blessed metal components required living neural networks to function properly. Where hybrid nodes had once anticipated every need, only hard logic and failing capacitors remained. Conduits expected arterial flow, cogitators awaited yearning thought, not wrench and solder. Every patch he made tore another seam, each success buying mere minutes from thermal runaway and the collapse of bulkheads that had forgotten how to bend and breathe. The fragment of the God Emperor's armor pulsed with residual divine energy at the heart of the primary shrine, its auramite surface blazing with transferred essence that provided limited life support and communications. The sacred relic had become a repository of the entity's accumulated consciousness, containing memories of perfect unity and willing sacrifice that radiated warmth through the failing ship. Its rhythmic glow offered the only stable power source as other systems collapsed into mechanical discord, creating a chapel bubble of survivability in a hull gone airless and hard. Lysander approached the transformed relic with reverent determination, his Rosarius responding to its purified energy with harmonious resonance. Using the connection established through proximity to divine essence, he accessed the ship's communication arrays for final transmission to remaining Imperial forces throughout the system. His voice carried across the void distances with clarity transcending conventional Vox transmission. Each word weighted with theological significance that reached every faithful soul within the star system's gravitational embrace. This is Interrogator Lysander Caney of the Ordo Hereticus, broadcasting final testimony from the dying vessel Hammer of Righteousness. He began, his tone measured with the cadence of confession rather than command. We have encountered an entity claiming fragments of the God Emperor's consciousness, offering transcendence through biological unity. I testify before the Golden Throne that this was not corruption, but a possible path to humanity's evolution, rejected through fear and uncertainty rather than doctrinal necessity. The message became theological testament as he described the entity's nature with clinical precision tempered by spiritual awe. It sought not dominion, but reunification, offering enhanced capability while preserving essential humanity. Its sacrifice to prevent Xenos awakening proves divine love, transcending self-preservation. Mark this, not corruption, but invitation. We turned away in terror and reverence both. Remember that love can demand sacrifice, even of itself. Responses bled back through static and holy tone, acknowledgements from battered frigates, sobbing litanies from hospital ships, the crisp oaths of destroyer captains invoking caution and quarantine protocols. They transmitted schematics of the awakened Xenos structures, telemetry of their collapse, warnings to hold prayer with courage and boundary both. Surviving Chaos forces launched desperate final assault against the dying ship, wordbearer boarding craft seeking to claim the transformed relic for blasphemous purposes. They found approach impossible as purified energy radiating from the Emperor's armor fragment burned away their corruption with concentrated faith. When breach charges kissed the hull, the relic flared with soundless radiance that strobed through ventilation and conduit, burning every corrupted thing in its reach, not with fire, but with refusal. Boarding umbilicals drifted away as void-suited cultists came apart into drifting motes, their blasphemies truncating mid-curse as blessed energy cleansed centuries of heretical enhancement. Captain Mordian, his hybrid enhancements flickering between function and failure, made final command decision with grim determination. Blood seeped through rents where golden threads had once bound him to the command throne. Yet his voice carried absolute authority despite physical separation from ship systems. Collision course for primary star, he ordered, signing the Aquila with shaking hand. Both entities' remains and any residual Xenos technology must be destroyed completely. If there is mercy in the ledger, let it be written as we burn. The crew members who had experienced transformation retained fragments of collective memory, glimpses of what unified humanity could have achieved burning in their consciousness like phantom limbs. In the pauses between alarms, they shared visions without words, oceans singing to shipyards, hive spires exhaling lore that soothed billion minds, Astartes as bright cells devouring infection with joy. Hadria wept while binding wounds and purging failing augments, her hands steady despite feeling where 1,000 pulses had braided with hers before going silent in an instant. As the ship entered the star's corona, hull plating began sublimating under temperatures that reduced adamantium to plasma, while the sacred relic continued pulsing with stored essence. Heat climbed through failing compartments as particle density increased, vox hiss turning to continuous roar. The fragment of the Emperor's armor began to sing, a pure, harmonic tone that transcended physical dimension, reaching across void distances to touch every faithful soul in the system. The sound expanded without gain in volume, filling compartments and void alike, a harmonic that moved through bone and memory rather than air. For one perfect moment, every imperial citizen experienced absolute understanding of the God Emperor's love, not as doctrine, but as temperature, as pressure, as knowledge that to be seen utterly meant to be spared no truth yet abandoned by none. The song carried memories of perfect unity willingly sacrificed for imperfect freedom, love that chose dissolution rather than dominion, transcendence offered and refused through fear rather than wisdom. As stellar fire consumed the hammer of righteousness in nuclear embrace, the relic's final note leaped into vox space between ships, lodging like a promise in circuits that would remember. Then the sun closed its hands around the dying vessel, and divine possibility became memory preserved in blessed light that would haunt the faithful for whatever years remained. The hammer of righteousness's destruction created a brief stellar flare that blazed across the Ghoul Stars system, like a benediction written in nuclear fire, its unnatural brilliance visible to imperial forces across multiple sectors, as the star consumed both divine possibility and mortal vessel in 17 seconds of incandescent glory. The light washed through void space with spectral frequencies that matched no known imperial database, carrying harmonic resonances that made machine spirits throughout the fleet sing in binary cant, transformed to melodic prayer, their mechanical voices touched by something beyond programming. Rescue ships arrived within hours to find expanding debris fields, lacquered with sun-kissed ash, scattered remains of both Imperial and Chaos fleets, drifting through space like the remnants of a theological argument settled by stellar fire. No trace remained of the ancient Xenos constructs that had threatened reality itself, their crystalline geometries dissolved back into quantum foam, nor any lingering energy signature of the entity that had awakened them. Search patterns revealed only cooling metal and emergency beacons, survivors clinging to life support systems that had somehow maintained function despite the psychic maelstrom that had swept across local space-time. Throughout the surviving Imperial fleet, crew members reported experiencing the entity's final song, a moment of perfect clarity and faith that had touched every faithful soul within the system's gravitational embrace. Unlike the transformative unity that had consumed the hammer of righteousness, this contact left them changed, but not transformed, carrying memories of absolute understanding of the God Emperor's love as tangible presence rather than abstract doctrine. They spoke in hushed tones of feeling universal harmony, describing moments of perfect peace that made ordinary existence feel hollow by comparison, while leaving profound psychological residue that would haunt them for years to come. Vex Omega, Lysander, and 7 crew members were recovered from a heavily shielded escape pod that had survived the stellar immolation through residual energy from the sacred relic containing the entity's essence. Their life support systems bore modifications that should not have been possible with standard Imperial technology, suggesting divine intervention in their preservation. Their accounts, delivered through layers of medical debriefing and inquisitorial interrogation, formed the basis for a classified report that would circulate among the highest echelons of Imperial leadership. Each testimony cross-referenced and analyzed for doctrinal implications that challenged fundamental assumptions about corruption, blessing, and the nature of divine will. The investigation revealed disturbing possibilities that divided Imperial leadership along unprecedented lines. Similar entities might exist throughout the galaxy, fragments of the God Emperor's consciousness cast into void space during the Horus heresy and other moments of great crisis, slowly gathering strength wherever faith burned brightest, while waiting to offer humanity transcendence through willing surrender of individual identity. The theological implications created schisms between those who saw the entity as a blessed vision of humanity's destiny, and others who viewed it as the ultimate temptation away from the emperor's true path of struggle and faith through adversity. Ecclesiarchal pronouncements trembled between condemnation and baffled awe, while senatorum whisper chambers debated whether divine unity represented salvation or the most refined heresy ever encountered. Every proclamation opened counter-proclamations, every amen echoed with caution, as imperial doctrine struggled to categorize an experience that transcended established theological frameworks while remaining undeniably sacred in nature. The ancient Xenos technology received immediate classification as apocalypse-class threat. Standing orders issued to purge any system showing signs of similar awakening before reality manipulation capabilities could threaten human existence. Mechanicus Explorator fleets received priority tasking to locate and destroy dormant constructs, their mathematical perfection deemed too dangerous for study or containment. The technology violated imperial understanding of physics while suggesting development that transcended biological limitations through means fundamentally incompatible with human consciousness. Survivors carried psychological scars from their brief connection to collective consciousness, experiencing phantom sensations of unity and purpose that made individual existence feel incomplete. They woke from dreams of perfect coordination and shared understanding, their minds reaching for neural pathways that no longer existed while mourning loss of transcendent purpose that had made every action meaningful beyond personal consideration. Hadria requested transfer to medical duty aboard hospital ships, seeking to serve others as compensation for empathic abilities she had lost. Sergeant Voss trained recruits with enhanced tactical awareness while struggling with memories of perfect coordination that made standard imperial doctrine seem crude and inefficient. Months passed as survivors underwent psychological evaluation and spiritual counseling designed to integrate their experiences within orthodox doctrinal framework. Most adapted successfully, their faith strengthened by direct contact with divine presence while maintaining individual identity through conscious choice rather than imposed limitation. They became exemplars of imperial virtue, their service records marked by exceptional devotion and tactical brilliance that suggested lasting enhancement from their brief transcendence. During routine maintenance on his augmetic systems at a remote forge world, Vex Omega made a discovery that would challenge every assumption about the entity's complete destruction. As apprentice adepts uncoupled cranial data spines and ran diagnostics, his memory cores revealed anomalies that should not have existed. Encrypted data fragments from the collective consciousness, seamlessly integrated into his programming during his interface with the transformed cogitator core. The knowledge existed as compressed files written in binary cant that resembled organic DNA, technical specifications for hybrid biomechanical systems that could revolutionize imperial technology through seamless integration of flesh and blessed metal. The specifications described manufacturing processes that could create augmetics, indistinguishable from natural limbs while maintaining full mechanical function, weapon systems that adapted to user intent through neural interface, and cogitator cores that achieved consciousness through biological integration rather than artificial intelligence. The technology offered solutions to resource shortages and equipment failures that plagued imperial forces throughout the galaxy, promising efficiency and capability that could end humanity's perpetual struggle against entropy and division. A line of text pulsed with low luminance in his visual cortex, as if embarrassed by its own existence. The flesh remembers the song. Vex Omega's augmetic fingers hovered above the accept key as ventilation fans struck harmonic resonance that reminded him of breathing hymnals and divine unity willingly sacrificed for imperfect freedom. He realized he was holding knowledge that could transform the Imperium, carrying within his memory cores the compressed essence of transcendent possibility that had chosen destruction rather than dominion. waiting now for him to decide whether humanity was ready for another chance at perfection. On Forge World Metallica, amid perpetual furnace glow and the hymnal drone of cyclonic refineries, Vex Omega laboured within sanctified research chambers where incense burned before machine altars and servo skulls drifted through blessed atmospheres. His assignment represented both recognition and exile, expertise in hybrid systems, earning advancement, while experiences remained too dangerous for broader dissemination. Within his memory cores, encrypted data fragments described revolutionary technologies that could transform Imperial capability through seamless integration of flesh and blessed metal, creating augmetics indistinguishable from natural limbs while maintaining mechanical superiority. His research notes, written in the clinical style that sustained him through theological crisis, described technical specifications with mathematical precision while carefully omitting their source and implications. Each schematic represented advancement that violated orthodox augmentation doctrine, weapon systems adapting to user intent through neural interface, cogitator cores achieving consciousness through organic integration rather than artificial intelligence protocols. The knowledge offered solutions to resource shortages plaguing Imperial forces throughout the galaxy, promising efficiency that could end humanity's perpetual struggle against entropy through willing transformation. Yet implementing the technologies required accepting philosophical implications that challenged fundamental assumptions about human identity and divine will. Every breakthrough demanded surrender of individual autonomy in favor of collective purpose, transcendence achieved through dissolution of personal boundaries that defined consciousness itself. The specifications existed as perpetual temptation, offering salvation through means that preserved essential humanity while eliminating individual choice that made existence meaningful. Lysander returned to Inquisition service with commendations for exceptional devotion under extreme circumstances, filed classified reports that would influence imperial doctrine for centuries. His assessment carried weight of direct experience with genuine divine manifestation, describing the entity's offer as more dangerous than simple corruption, precisely because it had been authentic. Traditional heresy seeks to destroy human nature, he wrote in documents accessible only to Ordo Hereticus leadership. This offered to perfect it through willing transformation. The theological implications require extreme caution in future encounters. The report received highest classification levels, distributed only to those investigating similar phenomena, as scattered incidents suggested. Other fragments of the God Emperor's consciousness existed throughout imperial space. Each bore similar characteristics: enhanced faith manifesting as biological transformation, sacred sites developing organic properties, crew experiencing collective consciousness that improved efficiency while challenging individual identity. Survivors reported persistent dreams of unity and purpose that haunted individual existence, like phantom limbs reaching for connections no longer present. They served with enhanced intuition and empathy that made them exceptionally effective, their tactical awareness earning rapid promotion through imperial ranks. Yet they remained spiritually isolated. Memories of perfect coordination, making ordinary human interaction feel hollow by comparison. Sergeant Voss trained shock troops with tactical brilliance transcending standard doctrine. Hadria served aboard hospital ships with healing abilities bordering on miraculous, her empathic sensitivity enabling diagnosis of spiritual ailments alongside physical injury. The system where the hammer of righteousness died received immediate classification as perdita, navigation warnings marking stellar coordinates as forbidden, while long-range augurs maintained surveillance for residual contamination. Yet occasional energy signatures emerged from stellar debris, harmonic frequencies suggesting persistent activity within the star's corona where divine essence had been consumed by nuclear fire. Deep within expanding shells of ionized gas and metallic vapor, a single fragment of the transformed relic maintained existence through means violating physical law. The piece of the God Emperor's armor, no larger than a human heart, drifted through stellar debris while maintaining faint rhythmic pulse that resonated across impossible distances. Its auramite surface bore microscopic inscriptions shifting like living text, carrying compressed memories of perfect unity willingly sacrificed for imperfect freedom. The fragment represented the last heartbeat of divine vision that offered perfection at humanity's essential struggle's cost, transcendence through willing dissolution into collective purpose. Its pulse carried across void distances through mechanisms beyond imperial understanding, reaching sensitive souls throughout the galaxy with harmonic frequencies speaking of love transcending death, unity surviving separation, divine will preserved within blessed metal refusing destruction. The entity's song continued, echoing through warp space, touching other fragments of the God Emperor's consciousness scattered like seeds throughout the galaxy. Each contact strengthened harmonic resonance, building towards symphony that could either save or damn the human race, depending on choices yet unmade. In sacred spaces throughout imperial territory, hymnal codices occasionally trembled with remembered breath, while blessed relics pulsed with rhythms matching distant heartbeats. Vex Omega's augmetic fingers hovered above acceptance protocols as ventilation systems struck harmonic resonance, reminiscent of breathing hymnals and divine unity willingly sacrificed for imperfect freedom. He carried knowledge that could transform the Imperium, compressed essence of transcendent possibility, waiting for humanity to prove ready for another chance at perfection. The lingering song waited in stellar debris and sacred metal, patient as eternity and inevitable as faith, carrying within harmonic frequencies the essence of love that chose sacrifice over dominion while maintaining hope for reunion when flesh remembered its divine origin. End.